Good day, all viewers. Selamat datang and welcome to the International and Domestic Virtual Colloquium, or COMAT 2022, by Institute of Teacher Education International Languages Campus, or better known as IPGKBA, with the theme Going Global, Internationalizing Education. I am Annalisa Zaman, your moderator, a lecturer in IPGKBA. I will be hosting this interesting session today, and we hope you will stay tuned till the end of this session, because we have a lineup of notable speakers for today's forum, which is Wheels of Change in ELT from Pandemic to Endemic. Before we get to know them, allow me to lay out a few housekeeping matters. First, everyone who attends this webinar series will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register yourself now. The registration link is on the screen. Second, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to send it through the chat box. The speakers will answer your questions at the end of the session. If we do not answer your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. And last but not least, it would be much appreciated if you could share today's webinar with your social networks. Let's get started. The novel coronavirus has created an unprecedented challenge that were unforeseeable 2 years ago. IPGKBA, via this mini forum, is bringing together panels from 3 pertinent sectors around the Malaysian education climate: the school, private international education, and the MOE, to discuss the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and the move towards endemicity. Now, allow me to introduce our speakers for today. Let's begin with Puan Fazlina Said. Puan Fazlina Said is currently the Deputy Director of Social Sciences Sector of Curriculum Development Division from the Ministry of Education. She was previously an English lecturer and Academic Secretary of IPGKBA. Her achievements include managing and steering the design and development of national curriculum for 11 languages, including Bahasa Melayu, English, and French, as well as social science subjects such as history and geography. Next, from the private international education sector, we have Dr. Chia Sui Yi. She started as an education entrepreneur before she began her academic path in University Kuala Lumpur, followed by as the Associate Dean, Research and Postgraduate in School of Education, Taylor's University. Currently, she is the principal in Sri Kuala Lumpur Primary School. She has been involved in many initiatives, including literacy and numeracy screening, or also known as LINUS program, and the program Pensiswasahan Guru PPG, among others. She has conducted various educational training sessions in Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines. Last but not least, from a school, we have Mr. Ma Zijian, who is a senior assistant in SJKC Chonghua in Jitra, Kedah. He has been teaching English for 15 years. He obtained his Bachelor's of Education TESOL honors from the University of Exeter, United Kingdom, and has a Master's in Education, specifically ELT, from UUM. He is a trainer for KSSR and a master trainer for the CEFR aligned curriculum. He has conducted workshops for pupils and in-service professional development courses for teachers. He has also worked with different divisions under the Ministry of Education for professional development courses. So, without further ado, let's get on with the topic of today's forum: Wheels of Change in ELT, from Pandemic to Endemic. To start the ball rolling, the first question is, how has COVID-19 affected your organization and what are the developments so far? Puan Fazlina, how has it been for the Curriculum Development Division?
Thank you, Dr. Tengku Annalisa. As you said in your introduction, the pandemic COVID-19 was something unprecedented, and it has affected everyone one way or another. And particularly for the Ministry of Education, there were a lot of issues that we have to address, because the closure of physical school, meaning that learning has to be done either online or remote access learning, or for those who do not have connectivity, there were issues on how to reach out to these children, and also how do we gather, uh, even if they have internet connection, how do we make sure that they come online? So these were the issues that we have to address. And having said that, uh, when it comes to connectivity, for those who have devices and connectivity, in the beginning, the attendance was also not as high as when you attend physical school. Okay, that was one challenge that schools have to face. And the second one was how to reach out. So because if, as you can see, in the analysis in 2021, there were various number of days that have affected students, because sometimes it depends on the issues locally. For example, in 2021, we have the election in Sabah. So some students, yeah, especially in Sabah, they have sometimes longer home-based learning. That means their home learning was a lot more than others. Yeah. So this was just an analysis that we did on the number of home-based teaching and learning. That was back in 2020 and 2021. So this number of days, because when we look at the number of days that students have actually missed out being in physical school, we have to ensure that students and teachers are still connected. Either it is connected through online or offline, or also on site. So where, if you have students who are online, that's good enough, yeah, because if they can come in, then teaching and learning can be done online. However, there was also issue when you have so many hours in a day that students were facing the computer. So there were also issues on how many hours should we allocate for online learning. Yeah. And then for those we cannot reach out online, so there were also modules, materials that MOE and also schools have prepared in order to reach out to these children offline. And also there were also materials that we prepared where they come in online, they come in on site. That means there would be small groups, either they do it in their head of village or in their district office, yeah, so where there would be a small number of children that come in, you know, just to ensure that they are given those resources and help. So as we were looking at the challenges of curriculum implementation in 2021 for primary school, we have issues like literacy and numeracy, yeah? The basic skills. So how do we propose in order for what you call for children to catch up? So we have, like, for example, year 1 transition program and year 2 for recovery. And also we have the issues of students' readiness to continue schooling after staying home for a long period, yeah, especially after 2020 when school reopens, and then it closes again, and then in 2021 it reopens for a while, and then it closes again because of the pandemic. Yeah, so these are the things that we have to get ready, because these are the challenges. Yeah, how do we make sure that children are ready to go back to school? So we have like preschool, we have this orientation week, transition program, and also we have to provide motivational programs for year 2 to 6. And then we also analyze the learning gap in terms of quality of home-based learning. Yeah, students with internet access, students without internet access. How do we address that? So back in 2020, in July, I think end of June, we already started aligning our curriculum. Yeah, we started with the Aligned Curriculum 1.0 in July 2020, where the curriculum was actually divided into 3 categories, yeah, basic content, additional content, and complementary content. And we also have programs for transition program for year 1 and year 4 Aligned Curriculum 2.0. And then the same challenge of curriculum implementation was also identified for secondary school. So basically, there were issues in students' readiness, yeah, because staying home for a long period, learning gap, quality of home-based learning. So these are the things, because we have the data of how much learning was done, how assessment was done, and also the transition of school level. Yeah, how do we detect and intervene at the school level? Yeah, and then we will also have the challenges of how do you select Form 4 subject, yeah, because we have to do diagnostic tests from Form 3 to Form 4, and from their results, how do actually they proceed. So there were a lot of tests used. I wouldn't say a lot, but there was diagnostic tests and also classroom-based assessment to actually see how children are faring. Yeah, and we were also faced with the double cohort for Form 5, yeah, because as you know, the curriculum, the school calendar academic has been extended to end of February. So at one point, the children were all right. I think I will stop there first, Doctor.
Dr. Chia Swee, could you enlighten us and the viewers how has COVID-19 affected your school, the students, and the development so far?
Hi, good morning.
Right.
I think there was a little connection problem there, so
Yeah.
I'll try to figure out what you asked me. I
Oh,
think
would you like me to repeat it? I can. It's not a
that
problem.
do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The question is, could you enlighten us and the viewers how has COVID-19 affected your school, the students, and so far, what are the developments?
All right, thank you. I believe what Puan Fazlina mentioned just now, some of the issues which were faced by public schools, government schools, were quite similar to any schools around. So, in the context of an international school, and I hope by sharing what we've gone through, this would also help others in one way or another. So if I were to recall 2 years ago when we had the whole country had to close school have to go into school closure, I think there was an immediate sense of urgency. So the sense of urgency comes with, I believe, also a sense of panic. So to what degree this sense of urgency come panic would affect schools, I believe it comes back to how ready we were then. In the context of my school, we were very lucky. As I've mentioned in my abstract, we didn't have to struggle so much with access to technology as well as the resources. Because the children mostly they've got internet at home. They have the devices that are required to switch to online lessons, and likewise, teachers also wouldn't have that. But these are the hardware issues that we are talking about. What would be the biggest challenge for us then, I would say, really, is in terms of how we go about maintaining the quality of content delivery or curriculum delivery, as well as testing. I believe Puan Fazlina mentioned a lot about connectivity, and I truly agree with that, because connectivity is not justified simply by looking at whether the children are able to sign online, sign into the classroom virtually or not, because they could be there, but mentally they are not engaged. So connectivity goes beyond just making the technology available to them, teaching materials available to them. Challenges then was also, so mainly having said all of this, the challenges really to me were teachers and students' readiness. We have teachers, although they have been using technology, but there's a wide array of their ability and competence and confidence. In short, teacher efficacy in terms of conducting lessons online. In the academia, the switch, I would believe, is very quick. Um, at the ground level, in schools level, schools have got to play a bigger role in terms of ensuring teachers were given sufficient support. So I recall that for my school, in the beginning stage, even though we were able to anticipate that school closure might take place then, very quickly we had to make sure that every teacher started off with a techno support who is a colleague. So even a simple move such as those was able to provide a little booster in terms of having to take attendance with children in the class, not knowing whether they're able to sign in, and to share screen in terms of sharing their teaching materials. So those were the support, some of the support that schools have given to the teachers. In terms of the students, and I want to probably talk a little bit more on the primary school children. Um, Again, it's not just about making sure that they have got good bandwidth at home, they have got the devices. It's also about whether or not they are ready technologically as well as mentally. And operational wise, we did have to take into consideration in terms of screen time fatigue for the children. So these are the deeper issues that constantly challenge us throughout the school closure. And of course, it didn't help because when school started to open again, we started off with the secondary school or those who are taking high stakes exams first. So this primary school children were the among the last to come back to school. So that again prolonged the struggles and the issues. So these were some of the challenges. But I'm glad that now we are entering the endemic. So we'll talk a little bit more on that. Dr. Teguh, I'm sure that you'll be asking us to comment on that. But I believe that physical school will do much better in terms of us strategizing how to help students, regardless of which level they are in terms of getting back, filling the learning gap, or, more dramatically put, clawing back the learning that's been lost during the pandemic. So that's what I have to say for now.
Basically, Dr. Chia, you're saying that despite having all the hardware, there were still other challenges that you had. And for Puan Fazlina also, there were a lot of solutions that were put forth because of geographical issues, hardware issues, and all those. So how is it for Mr. Ma being on the grounds in a school itself? How has COVID-19 affected your pupils and their teaching and learning?
Okay, I think like what Pon Faslina and Dr. Chia has mentioned, I think the challenges apply to all the different schools around Malaysia. Okay, so basically what has happened is that schools were closed, and then teachers tried their best, whether to give support in terms of online classes or digital materials, or even giving modules. Parents come and collect from school and go back. But one main effect is that now I think in school the learning loss is obvious. It's time for us to really focus on the foundation building again, because during the MCO and online learning, it was quite difficult for teachers to ensure that real learning is was really taking place. Okay, so I think now what we really have to focus is give teachers time and give pupils time to try to consolidate, to try to do some remedial activities for the pupils to sort of grasp the skills and also the knowledge. And also one thing, we shouldn't be just, for me and from our observation, I think we shouldn't be just focusing on pupils' academic ability. Okay. We also need to look at their social skills, their ability to learn, and also their motor skills. So actually, there's a lot for schools to do to get pupils back on track in terms of learning. When we talk about affecting learning itself, I shouldn't think everything is just negative. I mean, for me, the good thing about this online learning is that it has sort of pushed every pupil and teacher to be more technologically literate, meaning we are actually using more online learning, and that is actually good for our education. So I think uh, we shouldn't be just going back to how we were before the pandemic. It's more like we should continue using this online learning platform together with what we are doing in class. So I think it's time for us to move forward together. It shouldn't be going back to school and then we forget all about this online learning anymore. So I think that's a good sign of this online learning thing, making teachers, both teachers and pupils and also parents, more more able to use all this technology to help with their learning. That's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ma. So basically, you're saying that despite, correct me if I'm wrong, um, despite the challenges that you had during and while and even now, it has the being techno savvy is more has developed for the students and the teachers. Am I right, Mr. Ma?
Yes,
I see.
oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm. Good. Sorry, would you like to continue? You were saying?
So I was saying, who would have thought year one or year two pupils were able to do Google Meet and online research, and some teachers who have not been using this technology, I mean, they are
Mhm.
all now very proficient in using this. So I think that is a positive side of this online learning thing. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So basically, the speakers have said there are, of course, the solutions and to the what has been happening throughout these 2 years. Puan Fazina, may I know how what is the outcome? You have MOE has already laid out the solutions and all, and we are seeing it. It's being on the grounds and all. But what is the outcome of it all? Do you see any positive or negative impact on that one with all the solutions put in place?
Thank you, Dr. Tengku. Yes, having said, when you actually laid out all these programs, all the modules, um, there are also things that we need to monitor. Yeah, that means to what extent modules are being used, or programs that have been proposed are being conducted. So I would like to say when we are actually doing the aligned curriculum, when we say that is for pandemic, it's not really true, because the aligned curriculum is actually, if we were faced with any form of crisis after this, that means the aligned curriculum can still be used. Yeah. And when we actually identify the learning gap and learning loss, if I can say, because I would like to take this opportunity to show what are the things that the ministry have actually provided for teachers and students. Yeah. Apart from the online curriculum, there's also these educational TV programs that has started in 2020 until now. And we have various slots for different subjects. And also with the new belting now, we are also putting in for co-curriculum as well. So we want to ensure that even during the pandemic, there were also slots for physical education. There were also some motivational programs, because as Mr. Ma was saying, of course, it's not just cognitive, but we also have to address the affective issues of the children. Now, when we identified the number of days students were doing home-based learning, there were various catch-up plans that we actually did. Yeah, we have 3 catch-up plans: catch-up plan 1, catch-up plan 2, and catch-up plan 3. So for each catch-up plan, we actually provided resources. Maybe if we can show the slides, the kind of resources that we have to ensure that children and also teachers are being supported, as well as parents. So we have home-based learning packages that are not only for teachers, but we also have home-based learning packages for parents, administrators, and also for uh, the state education department officers as well. So we have resources like, for example, because we know the basic literacy and numeracy was actually an issue, yeah, that there was this learning gap and some learning loss that we have to address. So the literacy module that we have produced was for Bahasa Melayu and also English, as well as for mathematics. Yeah. And then we also have resources that teachers can use with different pedagogical approaches that we have actually provided, where teachers are given modules, how to use a thematic approach, modular, project-based learning, differentiated teaching strategies. And there's also strategy that we actually particularly put forth, which was accelerated learning, compacting, accelerating and enrichment strategy, where teachers are shown some examples how they can actually, because when children come again to school, their entry level has actually differed. Yeah, some those who are fully engaged online or doing offline, they are actually following closely. They were able to catch up well. But there were also students or pupils who were actually lagging behind. So these different modules are actually provided for teachers and children so that the learning gaps can be addressed and minimized. So what we are provided for teachers and students, we have student enrichment learning framework. If you can show the slides, there were a lot of things. And there was a specific repository which is called Sumberku. There are more than 10,000 materials there that the ministry have provided. And for each curriculum content, for example, for English, yeah. So we have for year 1, year 2, year 3 until form 5. And for each learning standards, there are activities and also materials, resources that the ministry have actually designed and put in the repository, which is known as Sumberku. So what teachers need to do is they just have to download and use these materials according to the learning standards that they want. So the materials can include, for example, there are videos, gamification, quizzes, notes, PowerPoint slides, so, and a lot of other materials that they can use. Actually, teachers just need to look at their lesson plan for the day. For example, if they plan for next week, what is the lesson, what are learning standards that they want to teach, they can look for the materials in Sumberku, and then from that Sumberku materials, they can actually download and also get all these materials. Yeah, so maybe in the following slides, you would have a number of materials that I've mentioned in Sumberku. So these are the things that we have used. And also we have seen, as Mr. Mah was saying, because we have to reach out to children, either through hybrid or through online learning, teachers are becoming more and more creative. And we can see also children are creative and more proficient in using technology. And we have children who actually submit their assignments using videos. So teachers have different ways of actually assessing students' progress, or performance. So these are the things that we do not actually limit them to just hard copies. So submission of assignments or case studies or projects were also done online. So I think we should celebrate the different modes of learning and teaching, as even though now physically schools are open, but hybrid learning can still be conducted, where some children now, they are very happy, if they submit their projects or things online. So they feel that they are also being empowered to find materials, online resources. If you can move further, there were a lot of modules that actually the ministry have used, and these modules are easily downloaded by schools, by parents, by children. If you can proceed to the
Puan Faslina, are you there? Okay, we got cut off. Okay. Well, we'll get back to Puan Faslina in a while. Dr. Chia, are you there? Okay, we got cut off again with Puan Fazlina. All right, Dr. Chia, you were saying that apart from the learning and all, there were issues that you had in schools whereby the students, getting the students online and being focused and all. So your school has, of course, definitely you would have designed or had solutions for it. And my question is, how is the response towards those solutions, and has it been good for the school and the students themselves?
Well, when I talk about the issues that we had to face, as you mentioned, Dr. Tengku and Aliza, how to engage students. So we sum it up. How do we continue to how did we continue to engage students in the virtual classroom? Well, the school did a lot of things, and I'm very thankful for the team that I have. I had a very good team of teachers who were very dedicated, who pushed themselves beyond what they thought they were capable of doing. So it was kind of, although school closure was hard for us, but personally speaking, it was rewarding in the sense that it got us, although we were working remotely, it brought us closer, not just between among the teachers, but also with the children and all as well. Some of the things that we didn't just want. I think Mr. Ma mentioned something that's very spot on. He was very spot on when he mentioned this. It's not just about the academic focus. So during the lockdown, some of the things that we did, apart from using PBL as well, although we are an international school, we also embark on PBL for the whole school. We also had a lot of activities which encouraged the children to somehow learn to communicate, actual communication, not just as in written communication to fulfill requirement of the study, but actual communication, whether verbally or in written. For example, the chat. In the chat, what are the etiquettes, what were the do's and the don'ts, and the activities we had were we had no lesson day, which was a very good hit because it was a day where we put aside, and we did this a couple of times. We put aside all lessons. Teachers didn't have to worry about the lesson plan. The lesson plan on that day was really no lesson day. So what we did was, some of my teachers, I recall them, created this virtual space for them where children were like entering an aircraft. No one could fly then. So teachers had activities where children entered an aircraft, and then they were the stewardess, they were the pilot, and children get to respond. So we did a lot of things. We took them on virtual tour, virtual class party, and we realized that activities such as this that again strengthened and reminded them that, hey, you're not alone during those times, and reach out, were very crucial in 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 somehow, I would like to think, to help to keep them mentally and emotionally as well as socially connected to others. So these were some of the activities that we did. So it wasn't all just on the academic side. When I listened to Puan Fazlina, I really like to comment what the ministry has done. Kudos, well done. You make all the resources available to teachers, and that must have been the fruit of a lot of labor behind it, I'm sure. Um, on our side, I think, and I probably I'm not just speaking for the international schools or private schools. I think one reminder that we should all bear in mind always is we shouldn't just get caught within this web of having to do a lot of activities, and therefore we forget connectivity is really the human connectivity that's very important. And that's why we are schools. That's why we need schools, whether we are doing it online, hybrid, or in the physical schools. That human connectivity is the fundamental that we shouldn't forget, and we shouldn't compromise that human connectivity for the sake or in the name of scoring good grades, completing lesson plans, completing SOW, or completing the curriculum. That's what I have to say for now. So probably over to you.
I can see that it's where we have the hardware and everything, we have the connectivity and all, but linking it and being addressing the emotional needs as well as connecting the humanity, as you say, the human connectivity, as you said, is important as well. Mr. Ma, are you there?
Yes, yes, I am.
Hi. Okay. All right. They have Puan Fazlina has talked about how it has affected and the responses or the solutions that to reach to address the learning gap. And Dr. Chia was saying also what they have done in the schools, in the private schools. So, Mr. Ma, on your grounds, being a school teacher, being in a school, um, and Puan Fazina also said about there were a lot of resources for the teachers in schools. So how has that response been? And have you observed that it has been good for the students and the teachers and the school as in totality?
Okay, all right. I think when we talk about resources, it's undeniably a very good improvement because now resources are made available to anybody really. So teachers don't really have to spend a lot of time creating their own materials. But I want to build on what Dr. Chia mentioned just now. Is the human connectivity that matters. Okay. Uh, During the pandemic or even now, sometimes we tend to take for granted that when we share resources, like we share videos or share clips or learning materials to pupils, we sometimes take for granted that they will understand and they will learn from it. But maybe that's not the case, especially for very young learners. So I think what we need to realize is that these digital materials, they are not the cure for the learning loss. What teachers need to do actually um, is to use the materials, okay, the digital materials, and at the same time focus to help explain it, to elaborate on it or to explain it clearer to the pupils, depending on the current level of pupils, because not all pupils can sort of understand on their own. Okay, so I think it's not just about what is happening now in school is that we are trying very hard, okay, to teach them, and also we find that because people are so used to online digital materials, you have videos, you have movements, animation, and sounds, and when they come back to school and when you look at the paper, the dilemma between paper and also digital materials, when they come back to the school textbooks and also, or books in general, we find it we find that we observe that pupils are not able to actually read having the patience to really read what is in a book or what is in a text. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, like I mentioned previously, that we need to give time for teachers and also pupils to get back to the basics. Okay, the basics of reading, the basics of writing, because we find that they tend to lose interest, or they tend not being able to focus, especially when they are in the classroom. So I think the challenges do not only are not exclusive to pupils, but I think teachers are also struggling at the same time. So I would really suggest that we give teachers and pupils time to get used to this catching up with learning loss, and try not to have too much of reporting. I mean, sometimes, yes, we can give data, but what is important is what do you do with the data? Okay, so it's not just about reporting how many pupils are not able to achieve the necessary learning targets or what, but it's more like let's support and give time to teachers to try to do all the catch up. So I think that's what is happening in school now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So basically, what you're saying, Mr. Ma, that the teachers and students still need, despite being in the endemic situation now, post-pandemic and the endemicity, there is still the time for the need for some for teachers and students to actually still get accustomed to the whole situation. So going back to that, in this endemic situation, which do you find more labor intensive, and why? Can we go to Puan Fazlina?
Yeah, sometimes teachers are also saying that, yeah, we have plenty of materials, yeah, but how do we actually get the children engaged? Having the materials on the part of Ministry of Education, we want to support teachers as much as possible. And again, the human touch is very important, especially when you have this face-to-face learning, and children come at different entry points at this point of time. Yeah, so some could maybe in year one, year two, they already read well, but some may still struggling with even the basic literacy and numeracy. So on the part of the ministry, we need to support the teachers. We want the teachers, as Mr. Mao was saying, they don't have to struggle in preparing the material. So what we are hoping with the resources that we have provided, it would actually ease teachers' burden. Yeah, so that they will not have to look for materials. So there were a lot of materials in a matter of teachers look at them and can use them in Sumberku. There's also this literacy numeracy. We also have student enrichment learning framework. This is actually self-access learning. There are also materials, some guidelines for teachers, some guidelines for parents, how actually parents could help teachers learning, students learning at home. Even though now there is this physical school, but I think this learning materials can still be applicable, yeah, during hybrid or during physical face-to-face learning. So what I'm trying to say here is, on the part of ministry, we try to help teachers, but then again, with all the materials, if teachers do not use them, it would also be not purposeful. So maybe teachers just need to look for materials that are suitable for them depending on their subjects, and also on the level of the students, because what we have provided in the repository in Sumberku is materials for different levels of children. It means those who may not have actually achieved the minimum level of learning. Yeah, so we have different strategies that I was saying, compacting, accelerating, and enrichment strategies. It comes with not just guidelines, but also some lesson exemplars on how to do it. Yeah, so that means teachers can look at all the different subjects that they have and how this can be done. For example, you also have children who could have actually been so advanced, yeah, because some of them would actually done a lot of online research, on their own. So these are the materials that we have provided. And also in the classroom-based assessment, we have also enhanced it with lots more materials. Because of the pandemic, there are different ways that teachers can actually assess children now. So with the new classroom-based assessment materials, we are hoping that teachers would be able to actually use these materials. And also we have other modules, maybe that, okay, one thing that I would like to say here is actually, during the pandemic, we have also enhanced a lot of strategic partnership, not just with the National Library. This is actually free for all. What you need to do is just to register, put in your IC, or for children in primary, maybe just their birth cert, yeah, and then their email. Then there are more than millions. There are more than 2 million materials in U Pustaka, yeah, which is free for all. And there are materials for children to do online learning, videos, even like you don't even have to go for tuition now, because they have also materials that are also targeted for those who are sitting for exams, targeted for literacy and numeracy. Yeah, so there are a lot of resources. This is all, we have it in Sumberku. It's just a matter of what teachers want to use and how they want to use it, and for which particular children it would be suitable. Yeah, so we want teachers to be uh, to be able to reach out to different groups of children with different strategies. So I'm just going to show you all these materials, because I think it would be a shame if teachers do not use these materials, because you can either do it online, you can either download it and print it and becomes hard copy. If hard copy is what teachers like, they can also do that. Yeah. So we also have resources and teaching materials. And also recently, during our national conference for national curriculum, which was conducted, we organized it from the 19th to the 21st. So we have actually launched 7 teaching modules. Yeah, so some of them are differentiated pedagogy model, blended learning module, multiple intelligences module. We have mastery learning module, project-based learning module, and we also have 2 more, leadership and managing school curriculum module. That means this is to help the administrators, yeah, and also self-access learning modules. So these 7 teaching modules and guidelines are actually there for teachers to use. Yeah, so as we were saying, during the catch-up plan 3, when we did catch-up plan 1 in 2020, and then right up to 2021, and then catch-up plan 3 was until February, the learning gap of children, that means from those who were not able to read, we have actually reduced them through a number of programs, like for example, through the modules. We also have now reading programs that teachers are also currently being used now. And we are also in the process of getting what you call programs, AI program, to help with reading strategies. So these are all in the pipeline to further help teachers to address all these learning gaps and learning loss. So we are hoping, I think because the pandemic actually occurred for 2 years, and in order for us to recover the learning gap and learning loss, we need to be really vigorous and also rigorous, not just, we have to be really rigorous in addressing all the issues. And at the same time, there are also materials, because we mentioned about affective domain. Yeah, how do we help teachers? Because we know during the pandemic, a lot of teachers were also facing depression, children, and so on. There are also materials that help teachers and children in terms of their psychosocial. So these are the things that can be actually downloaded and accessed through Sumberku. So we are trying to show that there are many ways the ministry is trying to support. And at the same time, we are also having a lot of programs for teachers in order to address uh, how do you actually do remedial and things like that. There were a sort of lot of programs that was done by
Okay. Yeah.
IPGM as part
All
of
right.
the. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Puan Fazlina. So basically, these materials are all available in for everyone or anyone, as long as you have access from to the website, internet. Okay. We are a bit short of time. We've got only like 10 minutes. However, there are no questions actually, but there are comments from the YouTube chat box, which is basically one participant named Triumphemia MY from Malaysia says that I totally agree. However, most importantly is the accessibility from and in whatever medium of means. Basically, I feel that this participant is saying that they agree with what we have put forth today, and it's just as how to access it and how do we present it to the students, to the pupils, to the schools, so that we will reach the objectives. And Zulfika Husni says role play as one of the activity in schools. I believe he suggests that use role play as one of the activities in schools. A good experience for the children. Close quote. Okay, all right. Thank you for thank you to the participants, the viewers actually, who gave those comments. Just one last question before to end the whole the forum itself. After you have all three speakers have actually said about human connectivity, the importance of human connectivity, and it's not only about the hardware, the tools to teach and all. Where do you see online teaching the way forward for education, schools, and students? Or is it, creating, right now we have online teaching and all, is it the way forward for schools or the Ministry of Education? Or the personal touch and building the rapport and relationship with students are needed more? Can we perhaps, Dr. Chia, being the principal, could you have your thoughts here?
Well, that is a very relevant question, as in whether online is here to stay or not. Um, it is a part of our lives now. Online digital tools, getting children or getting students at whichever level from preschool right till tertiary to be ready. This is one of the skills, future skills that they need to be equipped with. So online skills, keyboard skills, the ability to communicate using any digital devices or apps. This is definitely part of what we say, it's a permanent feature in the education landscape, whether it is ELT or beyond. We cannot go back or backtrack by presenting to the students a pseudo world that as though online doesn't exist, because it won't make sense to them at all. Having said that, I would also still like to go back to what is the lessons that we all learn. I think the message of this is that we have to learn to strike a balance. If history, and if I may quote, from H.G. Wells, if history is a race between education and catastrophe, education has always seems to be on the winning side until the pandemic struck us 2 years ago. So education seems to struggle a little bit, but I'm quite optimistic that we are all on this road to recovery. But it is not an easy road. It requires, as Puan Fazlina said earlier on, it has to be rigorous and vigorous. A lot of hard work has to be put in, and we shouldn't take for granted that the children, the students are able to do that automatic switch from online to the physical schools. As Mr. Ma has pointed out earlier on, a lot of budding issues that we are seeing on the ground. Let me just very quickly give a very practical example. When we were online then, the whole school conducted online examinations for students because we wanted to be able to track their progress. We wanted to give them that schooling experience where exam or assessment is part and parcel of it. So we designed this whole online exam system. The beauty was with technology, we were able to even track to how much time they spent in answering the question, each question to the whole paper. So we were able to track, so we kept those in our data. And now that we are coming back to school, we compare so-called performance online and physical, and that's where we saw the problem. And it is very true, children needs to, especially children, need to get back to the basic. Mr. Ma mentioned about reading, and I think in the context of ELT, it is very important for all teachers to now try to get students to have this concentration and the ability to stay focused if they have to flip a book, as simple as flipping a book. So in my school, what we have started doing is we actually put aside half an hour per week where the students just go to the library, sit there, look for books that finally they're able to come across a book that interests them, sit there and flip and read. So that's what we are doing. Yeah, so
Okay.
the recovery.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chia. Mr. Ma, being on the grounds, all those and what has been said and all, do you see online teaching as a way forward for schools, and or the personal touch and building a rapport is more needed, or also based on my observation and what we have discussed here, it seems to be very labor intensive right now. So your points, your thoughts.
I think being labor intensive do apply for both, whether it's online learning or whether it's face to face. But whatever it is, I think online learning is here to stay. Okay, we should have the combination of both. Okay, we shouldn't be saying we shouldn't choose one to the other. So I think it's here to stay. What we need to focus on really is not just academic. At the same time, things like lifelong learning skills and also problem solving skills, because who knows, now we have this COVID-19, but what is coming next? We have to get our pupils prepared for whatever is coming. So I think teachers or schools should just continue with whatever we are doing, but maybe the percentage might differ between primary schools and secondary schools and also tertiary education. But from my point of view at the moment, whether it's primary or secondary, I think the human touch has to be there first, because pupils, if they are not comfortable with learning, they have their problems at home, or they themselves have this social emotional kind of issues. We need to tackle that first before they can really start to get back on track in terms of academic. So I think not just teachers, okay, parents also need to play a role. We cannot be expecting teachers to just help out with everything. Parents do play a role as well, and so do the community. So does the community. So I think online learning is here to stay. So let us just move forward. Try to be positive. What is important is, are our kids learning? Are they able to be independent learners in future? So I think that is the question that we really need to think about. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ma. So basically, let me just summarize what we have. What we have put out today, based on all what the speakers have said, is that there must be a balance between the human touch, the human connectivity with the tools, the 21st century tools and hardware ICT tools, and that everyone needs to be involved in this whole education. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to educate a child, to look after a child as well. So here, basically, we need as Mr. Mark said, and the balance of both, being online and all. And of course, obviously, online teaching, learning is here to stay, and that we need to strike a balance there, because whatever it is, the tools are just hardware. Whereas we need the children to be emotionally ready, mentally ready, which is not an easy task, especially when you're behind the screen. So I think I think that's also, there's one more we have. All right, there's a comment here. I think we've got 2 minutes. Two comments from Mr. Sivanandan Vivekanandan saying that internet connectivity is still not up to the mark, so it is not fair for all students. And Madam Lee Sao Ying from our very own IPGKBA staff says preparing students for 21st century skills is the way to go right now. Okay, so basically that's it for today's session. I wish to thank you, Ms. Puan Fazlina, Dr. Chia, and Mr. Ma for being with us today. Greatly appreciate that you want to spend some time on Comat and share your views on the matter. Thank you very much again, and thank you very much to the viewers and the participants who posted questions and comments. Thank you very much.
you.
Offline.